Good evening, councillors, staff, and those people watching online. Welcome to our council meeting. City of Swan disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during this meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body should rely upon that discussion or determination until written notice of either an approval and the conditions which relate to it or the refusal of the application has been issued by the City. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. The recording will also be archived and made available on the Council's website after the meeting. If you choose to participate in the meeting during public question time or public statement time, it is assumed that your consent is given for the audio to be recorded. Please keep your comments respectful to the Council and other members of the community. Visual images of the public will not be captured. Conditions of entry: no electronic, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is permitted to be used. A person who breaches this provision of the City of Swan Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 will be required to immediately leave the premises. Attendance's apologies. Mr CEO, I have none at this point in time.
Everyone's present, Mr Mayor.
Leave of absence.
Mr Mayor, I've had a request from Councillor Lucas for leave of absence from the 27th of September until the 1st of October. Thank you.
Any other requests for leave, councillors? Can I move that that be... You're moving that, are you, Councillor Jones?
I need to request as well.
Okay, you've got a request? Okay, just give us the dates and we can... Any others, councillors? I move that they be accepted. Move Councillor Nino, second Councillor Parry. No one against. Declare those carried. Declarations of financial and proximity interest and interest affecting impartiality. Mr CEO.
Mr Mayor, as stated, except Councillor McCulloch has upgraded her interest in item 3.6. She's now declaring a financial interest, Mr Mayor, in that item. That's the RAR report proposed service station lot 12. Corner of Great Northern 12 Great Northern Highway, Ballsbrook, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Any other declarations from either staff or councillors? None. Thank you. Public question time. Questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Act Administration Regulations 1996. 5.1. Answers to which questions were taken on notice, I have nil. Questions relating to reports on the agenda. 5.2.1. Questions which due notice is given, I have nil. 5.2.2 questions without notice. I also have nil. Other questions? I have questions from Mrs. Joe Cecchini, which has been answered. Mr. Carlos Picardo, which has been answered. Ms. Kelly Willard have also been answered. Mr. Bob Ellsby has questions that have been taken on notice. Ms. Alison Marshall, all her questions have been answered. Mr. Ronnie Ryan, likewise all answered. Ms. Naomi Jenkins, answered. Mrs. Karen Mowat, likewise been answered. Mr. Richard Atkins, also answered. And Ms. Shirley Routley, also answered. 5.3.2 questions without notice. I have nil. Public statement time. Public statement for Mr. John Considine in regards to item 13.6, the filling of the land at lot 171 and portions of lot 2 and lot 172, number 3, Plymouth Street, Woodbridge. Mr. Considine, if you'd just like to come to the microphone. And you've got 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillors. I wish to speak in support of the Green Corridor petition in particular, not particularly in regard to the land filling. That's a separate issue. So the challenge you face in this matter concerns balancing individual rights and community rights, development versus conservation. Our viewpoint is that the trees along the Helena River are an unrecognised and undervalued community asset. They're a vital part of the natural heritage of the City of Swan and indeed of metropolitan Perth. They serve many purposes. They give a sense of place, a sense of calm, and a harbour and refuge for wildlife and of all kinds, insects, birds, marsupials, reptiles. Loss of that refuge will mean death for most of those. There are selfish and altruistic reasons to conserve this habitat. I ask that you reflect on each. Write them down. Exchange your views. Weigh them. It's not just be bureaucratic and simply ticks boxes. You have power. Exercise it. I ask that you support our petition, not just for those whose names are on it, but for all residents, visitors and passers-by. When one enters the city of Swan via the Great Eastern Highway, the landscape of the Helena River marks the entrance. It separates Guildford, Woodbridge, Midland, the Swan Valley from the rest of urban Perth. It provides a sense of difference. It's our heritage. Let us value it, conserve it, enhance it for the benefit of all. When you sustain trees, you sustain all that depend on them, not only the trees. Our Lord Forrest had a vision in the establishment of Kings Park. At that time, it was a rifle range, part of it was a farm, and there was a lot of pressure for development. He exercised power to the benefit, the lasting benefit of Perth and Western Australia and of all. May you do likewise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Considine. Petitions. Councillors, at this point I've had nil. Any petitions to be presented? None. Deputations have been dealt with. Announcements by the presiding member. Councillors, just one announcement that I will be adjourning the meeting in line with our protocols during the COVID issue at 7:30 and adjourning the meeting till next Wednesday. Members' questions, 10.1, answers to questions taken on notice, I have nil. 10.2, questions reduced notice has been given, and there are questions from Councillor Johnson. Those answers are included. 10.3, questions of which due notice has not been given. Again, questions from Councillor Johnson, and those answers have been provided. Are there any other councillors with questions? Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can the CEO confirm that the vacant block at the end of Devon Street, Woodbridge, is owned by the WAPC, please?
CEO.
Can one of the staff assist me?
Mr Vanderlyn.
Mr Vanderlyn, thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the properties at the end of Devon Street, according to my recollection when I looked at it earlier on, is that some of those properties are owned by the WAPC, and there may be one or two that's actually registered or may be registered in the PTA.
Thank you.
Just a follow-on question, Mr Mayor.
Further question?
Okay. Can you please confirm or deny that there has been an application to develop homeless accommodation at the site, please?
Mr Vanderlyn.
Mr Mayor, we have received an application, development application a couple of days ago on the land. The land's a regional reserve, so it's an application that we will have to deal with. The city is not an authority that will make a decision on this. It will purely be our comment to the WAPC who will be the decision maker in this regard.
Thank you, Mr Vanderlyn. Councillors, any other questions?
Sorry,
Just go.
what was the address of that property? Devon Street.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Congleton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to ask a question if staff could come back to us. And the question is the percentage of rates paid year to date vis-a-vis last year's rates year to date. So as a percentage of how we're tracking. Also, the number of ratepayers requesting the COVID-19 relief support. And thirdly is the percentage of ratepayers defaulting on rate notices.
Take those on notice,
No,
Mr
Ms.
CEO.
Lay can answer.
Oh, Ms Lay, you can answer.
No, Mr Mayor, we'll take those on notice. We are preparing a briefing for Council to update on COVID. That will be included.
Councillor Johnson, you got a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, my question is following on from Councillor Parry. Can the staff advise the address on Devon Street where this development is proposed?
Mr Mayor, I don't have the exact address. We can look it up on a map, but it's essentially at the western end of Devon Street. Devon Street is the road parallel to the railway in Woodbridge, and where the road ends, that is the entrance to the property in question.
Thank you. I have a question to Councillor Johnson on question 2 in section 10.2. Can you explain to us the interest you have in the two companies that you requested?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I think you're talking 10.2. Yeah, it's just part of my job as a councillor, Mr Mayor, to understand how the city's money is being spent. Thank you.
Page 12. And the
12.
reason for those two companies particularly?
Maybe you can explain that, Mr Mayor.
No, I'm asking you, Councillor. You've asked the question.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy with the answer I've got. I've asked the question for a reason and I've got an answer.
Further question. I'm not familiar with a company called Kev's Water Cartage. Can you enlighten me? You can't. Did you do any title searches on either of these two companies before you asked this question?
No.
Would you be confused with Kev's Water Cartage with the company in QR called Kevin's Water Cartage by some chance?
I've not confused it, Mr Mayor. The question is the question I've asked.
Okay, the owner of that might be interested. Thank you, Councillor. That takes us now, Councillor, to confirmation of the previous minutes. I need a resolution, councillors, that those be confirmed and adopted. Moved Councillor Congleton, seconded Councillor Parry. Anyone against? Thank you. Also, I need a motion that the minutes of the special meeting of council on the 24th of August
Mayor,
also be moved and adopted.
sorry to interrupt. Have we gone in members' statements or questions?
Yeah, we did, just then.
I've missed. I need to make an apology, if you wouldn't mind.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Apologies for missing that spot. Council, I'd just like to apologise for my line of questioning last week at the Agenda Forum. I was a little bit somewhat passionate about the issue related to light poles or PTZ poles within Guildford, and my line of questioning was somewhat forceful, so I apologise to Council for increasing the temperature in the room, and I wish to apologise particularly to Councillor McNamara for our exchange, and he was simply guiding me and providing wisdom in the way I presented myself at the Agenda Forum. So thank you, and apologies. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Colley. Okay, getting back to the minutes of the special council meeting 24th of August, if I can have a mover that they be confirmed. Moved Councillor Congleton, second Councillor Parry. No one against. That's carried. That takes us back to business left over from the previous meeting, and we pick up with item 13.7. At this time, Councillor Kiley as the mover has spoken, Councillor Catalona as the seconder has spoken, and Councillor Henderson has spoken against the motion. So we pick it up from there. Councillor Kiley.
Mayor, could I please ask staff to inform us of the latest developments in relation to the site, if there are any to report?
Certainly can. Mr Vanlin, I think that's a question for you.
Mr Mayor, yes. Since the previous meeting, the city has been made aware of a potential purchaser being in current negotiations with the administrators of the land to purchase the land. And I can also confirm that there is a caveat registered against the title of the property which requires any purchaser to enter into a deed with the city to ensure that the section of land on which the extension of Marshall Road, which is Dayton Boulevard on the northern side of the property, is constructed, that land actually be ceded to the city as part of the transaction when the land is sold. So that is where it's at. It's under negotiation at the moment, as far as we know.
Thank you, Mr Vanlin.
Through you, Mayor, have we got any update on the potential clean-up costs on that site?
The latest information, you would remember that previously there was a cost mentioned of 80,000. The fact, and that didn't include the the fact that the site may be contaminated. Now that we know the site is contaminated, that figure would definitely be higher, and the current estimations from staff is that it would be in the order of 250,000 rather than 80,000. It could even be more than that.
Okay. You happy with those answers?
Thank you, Mayor. Where are we now? Do I sum up my...
No, we're now back to the next thing will be a further speaker for the motion, unless you intend to do something with it based on that information from Mr Van Lien.
I won't be withdrawing. I would have liked the opportunity to alter the motion possibly.
Well, we can't now.
I can't do that now, no.
You can't, no.
Thank you.
Okay, in that case, we pick it up. Councillor Speaker for the motion. The other speakers against the motion? Any other speakers for or against? In that case, Councillor Kiley, I'll ask you to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm trying to pick up on where we finished last month. However, we do have an update on the potential cost of the clean-up of the site due to the fact that it's been declared contaminated, and that is a considerable cost to the ratepayer. Not having the opportunity to revise that motion, I still wish to proceed and see to gauge the feeling of council as to whether we should go ahead and put that money towards the site. So just go over the situation. That site's been left derelict in effect, and people have been dumping on it for many, many years, and it looks like, although there may be an interested buyer, that the site could potentially stay as it is for many years to come. So it's a situation where we have to decide as the council whether we're going to go ahead with this. There's an opportunity to possibly bring it back up in 3 months' time if this motion fails, and maybe reconsider the motion and determine possibly another course of action, or get possibly a better idea of the costs involved in cleaning up the site. However, we've got the motion we need to vote on tonight. So I'm going to ask the Mayor that it be put, and that's a considerable cost, councillors, but I think the community of Dayton have been calling out for this for a long time. 250,000 is a lot of money. However, it's going to be shared across the whole City of Swan, all ratepayers, and there are many other issues and items we've expended similar amounts of money on, if not more, and obviously tonight some of those issues will be before us. So I'll ask that you vote for this, that we spend $250,000. We may not get the whole site cleaned up for that, but it'll go a long way to progressing that total clean-up for the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor College. Okay, those in favour? I have Councillors Catalano, Kiley, Johnson, Richardson in favour. The rest are against. Motion fails. Now we go back, councillors, to item 13.6, which is Councillor Scanlon on the filling of land, lot 171, portions of lot 2, and lot number 170 to number 3, Plymouth Street, Woodbridge. Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So would you like me to just read the changes I've made to the officer's recommendation?
Yes, please.
Okay, so 13.6, filling of the land. As per the officer's recommendation, with a couple of additions. Under number 1, B, no clearing of trees within lot 2 is permitted. Then, when we go over the page, at number 2, council seek alternatives to protect lot 2 as an established wildlife corridor. Then you'll note there is a number 3, but I've removed that, so it's to read as per the board. So then we go back to the officer's recommendation.
Okay. You all good with that, councillors? Councillor Scanlon has just moved. Option number 3. Number 3 has been removed. So, okay. Now to have a seconder, Councillor Johnson. Is there anyone against? There is. Councillor McCulloch, wish to debate it? No, thank you. Okay, fine. Okay, those in favour? I have Councillor Lucas, Councillor Congerton, Councillor Jones, Councillor Bodovnik, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon, and Councillor Richardson. Gives me. Motion is carried. Those against were Councillor Parry, myself, Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor McNamara. Okay, so now, councillors, we go to item 13.8, which is Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I need to begin by modifying this motion, given the officer's report. So the motion needs to begin. So at section 1, I need to insert at the beginning of section 1, report on amending the Midland Oval master plan. Thank you. And then a little bit further along in the same sentence, it says to include the additional 4 lots. So it should be 2 lots of public open space. And then towards the end of the same sentence, where it says annotated 1 to 4, it should say 1 and 4. And then delete items B and C. I will explain. And at section 2, need to just for clarity, part 2. It should, at the beginning, it should say "and to report to council." So that's my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Page 51.
Seconder? Councillor Scanlon. Is anyone against?
Amendment, Mayor?
Well, you wish to amend it?
I do. I want to include the possibility of any other available options in the report to come back to council.
I don't think I can allow on. That's pretty vague.
It is very vague, but
who's
it's...
going to find the options?
Fair enough. I'll withdraw it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so have a mover and a seconder. Now, I had someone against over here. There was a hand up somewhere. Councillor Lucas. Wish to debate it?
No.
No? Okay. Those in favour? I have Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon, Councillor Richardson and Councillor Podovnik, and the rest are against. Most is lost. 13.9 is Councillor Johnson, Toohey Gardens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, my motion is, I'm going to have to change this one slightly as well, that the council resolve to write to the state government agency that owns Toohey Gardens Midland and request that Toohey Gardens be made available as a community vegetable garden on a temporary basis with a notice period to vacate of 1 month at no cost to council.
Second is Councillor Scanlon. Is anyone against? No? There is? A question, Councillor Congleton.
Council not to write to the state government and directing the CEO to write to the state government? Just for, normally put in request the CEO to write.
Okay with that?
Amend that. Yep. Councillor Parry.
Wish to make an amendment, Mr. Mayor. Can you please add "and liability" after cost, please?
Okay.
We don't own the land, so the liability be with the landowner, surely.
So, you agree with the seconder?
I don't agree with it because I don't understand it, so yes, we debate it.
I can explain very quickly. Any liability, so basically what we're saying is transfer the item over, but City of Swan should not be held liable for any actions taken upon it. That's the reason why.
Now, there was someone against. It was Councillor Catalano, I think, wasn't it? Okay.
Seems fair enough.
You're the only one against. Okay. All right, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Toohey Gardens, for councillors who are not familiar with it, and some may not be familiar with it, is a small triangular plot of land. It's about 180 metres, 100 metres east of where we are sitting right now. It's on the Great Eastern Highway. It's directly opposite the Grand Central Hotel. Most councillors have heard this story before, but again, for those who don't know about it, Toohey Gardens was gifted to the city sometime in the 1930s and turned into a park named after himself by Mayor Toohey. It was a beautiful park with roses. Some people here remember it. About 20 years ago, the city boarded Toohey Gardens up, and it was taken from the city by the then Midland Redevelopment Authority. It's been boarded up and been an eyesore for 20 years. The MRA and Development WA have been trying to sell it for 20 years, but it's been clear for some time that no one wants this triangular block of land. We need to put this to some use. We've asked many times for it to be returned to the city to make a pleasant city centre park, but the MRA has refused to give it to us free of charge, despite the fact they got it from us free of charge. This latest proposal, Mr Mayor, is to turn the former park into a community vegetable garden, as this is the lowest, least impact temporary community use that anyone can think of. I don't propose that the city use any resources. This should come from the local residential community in the centre of Midland. Right in the centre of Midland, there are lots of new residential high-density homes without gardens. I'm sure if Development WA offered this small piece of land to the community for use as a community garden on a temporary basis, there will be some Midland locals available to take them up on that kind offer. The report the officers have given us suggests that infrastructure would be needed, such as compost material storage, etc., etc. I don't think that's needed. The purpose is low cost. The local community should just be given the opportunity on a temporary, month-by-month basis to make whatever use of the land they can for growing vegetables or anything else they want to grow. There's already a nice tree to provide shade. There's a gate, there's a fence, there's a path, there's a curb with edging, there's a memorial plaque you can sit on if you want. It faces north and it's ideal for growing vegetables. I think a low-cost, low-impact community vegetable garden could be successful in this location. I'm hopeful it won't cost anything other than the cost of writing the letter. Councillors, please support this latest proposal to get Toohey Gardens put back into use as a garden, this time as a vegetable garden. Thank you.
Question, Mayor, just in relation to water, could staff explain how we might get some water onto a vegetable garden in the area? Who would pay for the water?
CEO.
According to the resolution, whichever community group's going to run it would have to get a water supply and pay for that cost.
Councillor Scanlon, you're the seconder. Wish to speak?
Got a question?
Yes, Councillor Congan.
Am I allowed to ask a question? You're looking at me as if I shouldn't ask one. Anyway, could I ask, please, through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO, if we were granted, whoever was granted, the transfer as a community vegetable garden, who would then organise the structure that sits behind organising community groups to present themselves to take on the project? Because assuming that would be a cost to the city for staff to do that.
CEO.
I am presuming Councillor Johnson's already got that organised.
And the further question then through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO, to Councillor Johnson. Councillor Johnson, do you have a group in mind that is going to take this particular project on and the required commitment to funding it would need to present this as a community garden?
Mr Mayor, I can answer that question. I'll stand up to answer it. There are several community groups in Midland. There's the Midland Society. I think we have a Rotary Club. I think we have a Midland Junction Collective. At least one of these groups has expressed an interest in this. We could use one of those groups, probably the Midland Junction Collective, to auspice this. I'm proposing that it's an absolutely minimalist approach. I don't propose to bring water, the community should bring water or anything onto the site. It should just rely on seasonal rain. In terms of who would make use of this garden, directly opposite Toohey Gardens, there is a newly built block of flats. It's about 3 or 4 stories high. I think that the residents there, and I know one resident in there, would probably be interested because he formerly lived in a house with a garden. I think there'll be plenty of people to take an interest in it. So this is really just asking the question of the MRA, can we please, something, there's always, it's a chicken and egg situation. Is it, in principle, can we have this as a community garden? And if the answer is yes, then we go and ask, is anybody interested? So I know there are people interested, but that's the plan. We can auspice it and we can get moving in the autumn. So that's the idea. No impact on any councillors.
Any further questions before I ask Councillor Scanlon as the seconder? Councillor Scanlon, thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pleasure. I'd just like to say what a wonderful opportunity we have with that site at Toohey Gardens. There's been boards, those billboards have been up for many years now, and the community have spoken loudly about how they want Toohey Gardens returned to them. It's been a bugbear in the community for many, many years now. I myself have fond recollections of that being a public open space. I used to walk through there just about daily, and the rest of the community would like it for community use also. So this option is a no-lose option for us. We put it out to the community. They are the ones that want this space back for the community. Let's ask the state government to give it back to them. Let them use it until it is sold. This is a way to activate Midland. We're all for activating the community, and we have community wanting to activate Midland. Let's allow them to do that. And we could even get some people learning about horticulture and growing their own vegetables at the same time. This would be a wonderful thing for Midland. I remember seeing a wonderful vegetative space next to the Melbourne Town Hall, and it was growing wonderful produce just there, right on the street in front of the Town Hall. And what a sight for people visiting to come and see. And just next to the Midland Town Hall, just next to the library, on the entrance through to Midland on Great Eastern Highway, a lovely community garden, owned and operated by the community. So, well, owned by the state government, operated by the community. So I really urge you all to vote for this motion. Give the community a chance. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We've lost nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion?
Oh, yes, I was just concerned about the water and the community groups issue, but I feel that's been taken care of. Thank you.
Speaker for the motion.
I've got a question through you, Mr Mayor.
Question, Councillor Podolny.
Can I just confirm with Councillor Johnson, from what I understand, the Midland Junction Collective were keen to proceed with this. Has there been any discussions about that?
Not in any detail. The idea is to get permission. We've tried many times to get this piece of land back into public ownership or usable public ownership. This is just another attempt. It's just a letter. If a letter comes back saying, yes, that would be reasonable, then that's the point where we'd say to people, are you interested? Can we actually turn this existing interest into actual action? And is anybody interested? I mean, I'll certainly be out there planting broad beans in the autumn myself if nobody else wants to. That's the idea. So it's a low cost, low impact. There's no chance of failure, because if it does fail, it's just going to stay exactly as it is now.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Question, please, Mayor. If the government did give us access to the land, would it have to be fenced to stop people vandalising the garden?
It is fenced.
It's already fenced.
It's already got fenced.
So that fence would stay, is what you're saying? Thank you.
I presume so, Councillor, but if not, if they want to change the fence, that's up to, it's no cost to council.
Okay. Speaker for the motion. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I went to Bullsbrook this afternoon, and I regularly go past the community garden and had a good chat today to Mike, who's on the committee, and watched from where we filled those boxes at the beginning with soil at the committee day and helping day, and I've got some lovely photos today of that garden flourishing at the moment with rhubarb and all sorts in there. It's an unfenced garden at this stage, and it's well maintained by the community. And I also saw, on my trip to Melbourne, that particular community garden, which I was astounded by, outside of the town hall. We had sunflowers growing to a certain height. It was well maintained, and I think that being in the same vicinity with a lot of passers-by, it will get a lot of attention. So, thank you.
Speaker against the motion. Any other speakers? Okay, Councillor Johnson, would you like to close?
Yes, we put it to the vote, Mr Mayor.
Okay, right. Those in favour? Unanimous, carried.
Thank you.
That takes us to 13.10. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. My motion is that the Council resolve to 1. Note that Council meetings commence at 5:30 p.m. as resolved at item 5 on the 15th of April 2020. Council meetings should finish by 10 p.m. as resolved at item C 1.5 on 8th of May 2019. There is no resolution of Council limiting Council meetings to 2 hours duration. D. There is no City of Swan Environmental Health Officer report recommending limiting meetings to 2 hours duration. Councillors have the option to leave a meeting at any time if they so wish. 2. To take a 10-minute break approximately every 2 hours until the Council meeting is closed or adjourned. And the reason for the motion, is to allow councillors and staff to have a break for health and safety reasons to allow meetings to continue for up to 4.5 hours as previously resolved by Council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor, before I ask for a second, I would advise that I'm ruling your motion out of order because it is similar to your previous attempts on the same motion, including the special meeting. So that has been ruled out of order.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move a motion, very politely move a motion to dissent from that ruling, if that's all right with you.
Okay, we have a seconder. Those in favour? It's pretty clear that's lost, but 5-10. Thank you. That 3.11 is now Councillor Johnson on technology to conduct electronic meetings.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, my motion is that Council resolve to request that the CEO prepare a report for Council setting out in further detail the scope, budget and implementation stages for a video conferencing system to support Council, to support holding Council meetings by electronic means, including but not limited to A. Councillors and staff being able to attend Council meetings by electronic means or in person. B. Approved members of the public being able to make deputations, public statements and ask public questions by electronic means with their participation controlled by the presiding member or their delegate. C. Other members of the public being able to view the electronic meeting through live streaming as observers and listeners. D. Sound and video quality to meet the reasonable expectations of all classes of participants. And E. Additional screens and sound system if needed so that councillors and staff can see deputations, public statements and questions and ask questions of deputies. The reason for the motion: it is possible that the state of emergency may continue for an extended period, and if the COVID-19 pandemic returns to WA, the City of Swan Council will need to be able to effectively hold meetings by electronic means. Thank you.
Seconder. Councillor Catalano. Is anyone against? You wish to debate it? Okay. In case debate, those in favour? Councillors Parry, Catalano, Kiley, Johnson, Scanlon, Richardson. Put your hand up really high, Councillor. Thank you. And Councillor Prodovnik. So that's 7. This motion is lost 8-7. Now we go to 13.12, which is Councillor Catalano on the mayoral dinner.
Yes, thank you. My motion is that Council resolve to not hold the mayoral dinner in 2020 or 2021. And the reason is the funds can be better spent on providing for residents and ratepayers.
Seconder. Councillor Scanlon. Is anyone against? There is. You wish to debate it?
Yes, please. Honestly, have in two minds about the whole thing, and I'd like to listen to the debate.
So you wish to debate it?
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. Well, I've lived in the City of Swan now for 26 years, and actually I've got to say I didn't even know that the mayoral dinner existed, and if I'd never been voted onto this council I would never have been invited to it. But I did attend the mayoral dinner last year, and I'm going to tell you that I won't ever attend another one again, because it is, in my view, an exclusive event for a few at an extravagant expense to ratepayers. Now, I have heard arguments that it's a great place to network and brings in a lot of investment income, and great contacts are established there, but I was in semi-darkness most of the time, and I can tell you that I wasn't introduced to anybody that would bring investment into the Altone ward, my ward, or even indeed into the city. So that was my experience. So we know that last year 150 guests attended, and it was at a cost of $370 a head. Half of those people invited were actually partners of the invitees, so really this involved 70 people. Now, this is $55,000 effectively for 70 people to network. I don't think that that is good value. And in the same way, I mean, I appreciate that it's a great place to showcase City of Swan gourmet produce and Swan Valley produce, but if you think about the fact that we're talking about 150 people, for 55,000, that's not really a lot of people. That's not a big reach for that amount of money. So there's better ways that we can promote the Swan Valley produce, and we do that through the events, Twined in the Valley and what have you, the other events that we have. So there's also the argument about this is a tradition. Oh, it's a tradition. Look, I love tradition and heritage, and I'm always voting in this chamber for heritage to be retained. I think it really is important that heritage, we look after heritage and we maintain it. But I want to tell you something about this mayoral dinner. In fact, it started off in 1912 as a mayoral ball, and in fact, in 1913, any ratepayer could apply to attend the mayoral ball. It was never meant to be an exclusive event for a few at a cost to the majority. So we've come a long way from that. Sometime in the 1950s, that tradition changed and it became something rather a bit more exclusive for a few. Look, there's lots of traditions that really aren't worth preserving. 150 years ago, women would not have been standing in this chamber. I'm sure we don't want to revert back to those days. So we'll just mention about the networking. As I've said, it was very difficult for me to actually really even see anybody there. It was semi-darkness. So I think that networking can be done better
1 minute, Councillor.
in our suits, in a well-lit environment where we're actually openly there to discuss business opportunities and investment opportunities for the City of Swan. That's what we're there for, and that's the kind of event, if we're going to talk about networking, that's the kind of event that I do want to see the City involve us all in, all the decision makers and the stakeholders. That will actually bring results, and I don't have any... I'm not satisfied that the mayoral dinner produces the kind of results that some people might think it does. I think that we could spend the $55,000 on far better things. I think we could just get down and do much more maintenance. In suburbs, there's people in Alto Ward who want more maintenance done on their streets and their parks. There's never enough money to go around for the park maintenance.
Thank you, Councillor. That's your 5
Thank
minutes.
you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Councillor Scanlon is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I won't take the full 5 minutes. Firstly, I'd like to say I understand how many wonderful things have come about from the mayoral dinners, how many projects that councillors and the mayor have been able to secure through the chance to speak to people and share some Swan Valley produce and wine and some lovely entertainment. We had the beautiful Indigenous mayoral dinner by when Councillor Lucas was mayor, and it was absolutely beautiful, everything that was there. So I'd like to acknowledge that to start with. And then I'd like to say that times have changed. As Councillor Cardilano pointed out, we're moving forward and it's time for a new way of thinking. The new way of thinking is not of extravagance. It is for government bodies such as the City of Swan for us to think another way. We've got to think outside the square. We've got to conserve ratepayers' funds and put them back into the community. We could have many smaller networking events where we invite 1 or 2 of those state and federal representatives and speak with them on a one-on-one basis, where we get much more value because we have their full attention. There's not lots and lots of people. And this is it's been a wonderful tradition for the City of Swan. It really has, and I acknowledge all the wonderful things the City have done in this space, but advocacy is about representing our community. It's about attracting and securing investment and influencing policy and decision makers, and these things are done best on a more personal level. We want to champion our community disadvantage and show the policymakers and the government representatives who fund us where our community needs the money to promote our social justice issues, which are so prevalent in the City of Swan. We do have many issues, and we need to show them that, not show them just the wonderful things that we have. We need to show them what's real. We need strong leadership from the City of Swan, and we need to be leaders in a new way of thinking, being there for the community. I'd like you to all support this motion and look to the future of a way we can be inclusive with our community, fiscal with our budget, and make change in government policy while we're doing it. Thank you.
Question, Mayor?
Question, Councillor Coley.
If this was to succeed, would there be any problem with coming back to... I mean, I actually like using the town hall for such events. I think that's what the town hall's for. But if this was to succeed and we cancelled the mayoral dinner, is it possible to bring back another event in the form of a mayoral ball where individuals paid for their own way? Is that something that would be acceptable?
Do anything we want, Councillor, after that.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, Councillor Coley indicated he wished to speak.
No, I'm
against the
still
motion.
listening to debate, Mayor. Thank you.
Any speakers against the motion? For the motion? No other speakers? Councillor Cadillac?
No.
Sorry, was there one over it? Well, I probably heard you before I saw said Councillor Johnson, so I'll ask you first. You're speaking...
For the motion, actually. Can everyone hear me quite clearly? All right. Just want to say that Council has already decided not to hold a mayoral dinner this year, so this motion really just asks for one extra year. And I expect that year is going to be a very tough year for a lot of residents in the City of Swan. The City of Swan has a very strong advocacy focus, and the list of projects the City has managed to get through lobbying state and federal members of Parliament is impressive. Those who want to keep the mayoral dinner say it's a small amount to invest in an event that yields a multi-million-dollar return. They believe the mayoral dinner creates a priceless opportunity to network, lobby and ultimately get a good result for our residents. It would be difficult to argue against the impressive list of projects that have received funding through the City's strategic advocacy efforts. But I ask you, if we don't have a mayoral dinner, can we still advocate and lobby our state and federal politicians? If we don't have a mayoral dinner, can we still discuss certain projects that need funding with key people that can make it happen? I believe we can. Tonight, I ask Council to consider other, more cost-effective ways to continue the City's advocacy program, and for the mayoral dinner funds to be redirected into our communities. And in this current climate, that's exactly what our communities expect. According to feedback on social media, our residents expect to be involved in events that celebrate the City's key milestones. These milestones include 120 years since Midland Junction was formed and 150 years since Guildford was formed as a municipality. Many want that money given to those who need extra support. Others think we should save the money in this particular current economic climate. I ask Council to please support this motion. Let's look at other ways we can celebrate our milestones with the community. Let's look at better ways to spend or save this money. Let's look at other ways to continue the City's excellent advocacy efforts, ways that are more in touch and more in step with our current economic climate and with community expectation.
Speaker against the motion. Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. When I used to work for a company running their strategic sourcing with another co-worker, we had a sign, "Watch the pennies to save the pounds." One day we decided to both look at the marketing budget. We thought that we should make a $700,000 saving pretty easy by reassessing what should be eliminated from the spend profile. The first suggestion we had was to decrease the spend from the Dealers and Diggers Forum next year. We were in a room with an EGM of Surface Mining Underground, the CEO, CFO, trying to explain our case. Within 1 minute of the meeting commencing, we were asked to attend the Dealers and Diggers conference by the EGMs and asked them to follow around to see what they do. Feeling compelled, we had no choice. We went. What we saw was completely different than what we imagined it to be. It was an opportunity for senior executives within the region to discuss what is happening within their business and how each other company can assist each other. I know for a fact this particular conference got my former company 4 different tender opportunities and 2 of them were successful. We never looked to cut our spending in that conference again. Why? Because the pennies were making the pounds. It's better when the pennies are making the pounds, it's better spending a little bit more because the return on investment is huge. This is my position with the largest advocacy project within the City of Swan, the Merrill Dinner. I also wish to give Council a bit of perspective of the cost of the Merrill Dinner from an equivalent point of view. $1.05 per household, 44 cents per resident. Value of Northlink, 0.005%. Value of Lloyd Street Roy Highway, 0.036. Value of Brockman House, 1.3. A standard administrative tribunal hearing, 1.08 hearings. Rates, 0.048%. Operating expenditure, 0.036. Capital expenditure, 0.041%. How much did we receive from within our local council from the advocacy projects last year? Over $1,250 per resident. So when you divide $1,250 by 44 cents, your return on investment is 284,000%. I can hear some councillors when they say the Merrill Dinner is not the only contributing factor when advocating for projects, and that comment is probably true. However, even at 1%, the ROI is 2,840%. I think that's a little bit better than most ASX-listed companies. Now, one other particular advantage that we have compared to most other councillors is our heritage, or our town hall. Councillors, when we delve into the details, the City of Swan has one key point of difference to the City of Stirling, City of Wanneroo, City of Joondalup. We have 150 years to delve into. Every time I walk into the town hall, I look up at the boards and look at the history of the people who fought in the Great War. I still don't feel like I deserve to represent our community because of the great history that we have. Now imagine all the other MPs and senators that we invite when they come down for the Merrill Dinner. In 2021, we will be celebrating 150 years in Guildford, and I personally agree that we should have additional funding in next year's budget to celebrate with the whole community, Councillor Kylie Catalano. However, the Merrill Dinner is advocating for projects we desperately need. Because you raised it. If we have a Merrill Dinner next year, I'll specifically ask for the Mayor and CEO to sit next to Rita Saffioti and Senator Dean Smith and advocate like crazy for improvements in my local area. For me, this is an opportunity to say to both sides of politics, I want funding for an all-abilities playground in Balladura, more CCTV and a noise well down Dumpillier Drive in Brabham, and a feasibility study of an additional train stop near Morgan Fields and Henley Brook. To me, the Merrill Dinner is a working night, establishing new relationships and improving current ones. I'm willing to talk to any person that can deliver our key advocacy projects for the City of Swan, and the Merrill Dinner gives us the opportunity to do this. Councillors, I will leave you with this last point. Never look at the cost alone. Look at the value of the project and how it can improve the city. Yes, $57,000 is a lot of money when you look at it in isolation. However, when the numbers show that the value and ROI of a major strategic spend, it is, our largest funding. Forget about it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Johnson, I think you had your hand up. Okay, right. Okay, any speakers against the motion? No. Speaker for, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, that was quite interesting, Councillor, losing the last page of your speech like that. It's the sort of thing that happens to me. Councillors, just to pick up on that point, one of the interesting things about this advocacy dinner is that, I guess in effect, it's a form of advertising. But one of the interesting things about advertising is that you would have thought that studies had been done that proved the value of advertising, that advertising actually works for the purchaser of the advertiser. Of course, it works for the media company. But if you're a company and you're doing advertising, there's no scientific, statistical, or any other kind of proof that it actually works. So we might be spending a lot of money, $65,000. Yeah, believe it or not, that is true. We might be spending $65,000 on a dinner, and it's having absolutely no impact whatsoever on on the outcome of our advocacy program, which is a very good program, by the way. We are doing very well at it. So now, Councillor Parry's not actually been to one of these dinners, to the best of my knowledge. But what I found is we're sat on a table of 10. I think it was a table of 8, the last one I went to. And I've never found I've been in a position to advocate for anything, really, or with anybody who I could possibly influence to do anything useful for the city. So it's not worked in that respect. I have always seen the dinner, or at least the first 2 dinners I attended to, councils were able to invite 4 people from the community to attend their table of 10. But then, after, and with the city, the CEO and the mayor choosing the rest of the participants being politicians, adjoining CEOs and other people, but then we were told for legal reasons councillors could no longer invite community members from local community groups. And I was inviting presidents of community associations and their partners, people like that. I thought that was good because that was letting the community associations know that we are holding this dinner, and it is for a reason. It is for advocacy, to try to get money to build the City of Swan. But unfortunately, that aspect of it has been removed. Now, councillors, the reason I'm supporting Councillor Catalano's motion is that we need to rethink this dinner, and I want to rethink this dinner so it does the advocacy and it brings the community in, and I'd like to see it done for lower cost. Now, let me just get on to the cost of it. When I discovered it was, what is it, $347, something like $350 a head, I was dumbfounded, absolutely dumbfounded by that. How does it cost that much? I mean, we already own the town hall. All we've got to do is bring in the catering and some tables and feed people. When I reached my 60th birthday and I decided to have a dinner to celebrate the becoming officially old, it was $60 a head, and it was a way better dinner than we get downstairs there in the town hall. So $347 or whatever it is far, 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 far too expensive. So, councillors, we need to think that as well. The other thing we need to think about is who attends. Surely we could open it up to subscription. Maybe people want to go. Maybe we could have more dinners if people were paying for them. And certainly as a councillor, if the dinner were a lower cost, a more reasonable cost, I'd be quite happy to pay my own way. It would seem a reasonable thing. So, councillors, I think we do need to rethink. It's something left over from the past. I guess in the olden days, men would like to put on their tuxedos or dinner jackets and wear their medals to show what they did during the war. I think really that's what it's about. It's probably just gone on a bit too long. So, councillors, I think we need to look at what's it for? Participation, cost per head, and just bringing it into the modern age. So I would suggest we've had a pause of 1 year, a pause for 1 more year while we rethink. It won't do any harm, and who knows what will happen after that. So, councillors, I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
I thought you were speaking for the motion, so you've got us out of order. So, can I have any speakers for the motion? Any further speakers speaking for the motion? I think you've already spoken. You actually put your hand up to be against the motion. Okay. Can a speaker against the motion? Okay. No, any other speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Coley, what are you doing?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, I'll be brief. I would like to see the town hall utilised, and I would like to see a mayoral ball or a mayoral dinner go forth in some form or another. So if this motion succeeds or it fails, I would encourage staff to look at means to reduce the total cost for the 2021 year as we go forward, whether the motion succeeds or fails. It is about advocacy, but we need to invite the community and get that element back into it. We don't want to make it an exclusive event. It does serve a purpose, but I cannot see that the purpose is being served with the expenditure of such large amounts of money, and I just think it's inappropriate in this time. So either way, I would like to see something go forth. Maybe it's a user pays system. Maybe we can allocate some money that we'd normally use for advocacy to pay for particular important people to attend for nothing. But personally, I'd be happy to go along to an event and pay out of my own pocket instead of having ratepayers pay for it. I think it'd be a good event to go to. I like that sort of thing. but I don't want it to be done at ratepayers' expense. And I may, if this is successful, I would be moving something that we do it out of a community activation fund or something like that, and build the event through that means, rather than having the broader ratepayer pay for it. So I'll be voting for the motion. That is not to hold the event for the next 2 years, and we'll see where we go from there.
Any further speakers? No further speak. Councillor Richardson, you're speaking
For the motion.
for the motion. Okay. Is there any speakers against the motion? Okay. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. In this present time with COVID and the community feedback that we've had, the mere cost of $55,000 divided per person would look at sort of an average family grocery bill for a week. So currently at the moment per person, that kind of cost per head is just unacceptable to ratepayers. I would advocate for another community event, whether it was a paid event, for the community to be invited, to go back to the root stems of a community ball and use the hall for the town purpose that it was used for, to celebrate. And back then there is no way they would have spent $350 a head. It would have been community funded, it would have had good produce and quality food, but it would have been provided by the community. And I think we could go back to some of those events and invite the public along. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. No other speakers? Councillor Catalano, close the debate.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for those comments. Yes, it will be a tough year for City of Swan residents and ratepayers next year, and maybe we should be thinking about events, if we're going to hold things like this in future, for individuals to pay their own way. Networking is important, I do agree with that, but I think that we should be starting to think about new ways to network. Now, I just wanted to say a point about people from the past. You know, I have great respect for the heritage and the history of the and of you know, the lives and the stories of both rich and poor of the past who struggled and worked their guts out to build the communities we have today. I really recognise that. But, you know, those people, traditionally those people, they opposed elitism. And not unreasonably because it leaves the majority out. And, you know, Australians, they have fought against it so that we today can pride ourselves on being a democratic and classless society. And that's what we pride ourselves on today. And I think that we in the city should be working to maintain those values. Thank you.
Okay. Now put the motion. Those in favour? I have candidates Pridovnik, Catalano, Kiley, Johnson, Scanlon and Richardson. 6. There are 9 against. The motion is lost. Councillors, that takes us to Part B. And I need a motion for those items to not be withdrawn to be adopted. Okay, so at this point in time, councillors, I have 2.2, 3.2, declaration of interest in 3.6, 3.10, 3.11, 4.5. So all the rest have not been withdrawn, so I move a motion that those be adopted. Okay, I'll do it really slowly for you, councillors. Count 2.2, 3.2 on the board. An interest in 3.6, 3.10, 3.11 and 4.5. And 4.7, which is Councillor Henderson's motion. So
And
no others have been withdrawn.
4.1?
4.1.
4.1. 3.8, Councillor Johnson. So they're all up there?
I've got 4.3 Morella Road. Mayor?
Yeah, I said 4.3.
3.6.
Yeah, I said 2.6. Right. Got them all now? Okay. 10 items. Okay. So.
3.12. No, sorry, beg your pardon. 4.5. You've got that one, have you? 4.5. Yes. Okay.
10
Thank
councillor,
you.
they're up on the board. Okay. So now the mover for the remainder. Move Councillor Lucas, second Councillor Parry. Anyone against? Okay, those items not withdrawn have now been adopted. Take us now to the first. Now, councillors, we will keep an eye on time because there are a number of items that have to be dealt with today, and they are 3.2, 3.6, 3.10, 3.11, and 4.5. So they are a priority, councillors. So we'll be minding our time on that. So we'll start off, councillors, with item 2.2, which is Councillor Catalano.
Thank you very much. My motion is that Council resolve to note the 12-month update report on the managing unreasonable complainant conduct, and we'll call that the MUCC, to request the CEO to prepare a report for Council within the next 12 months, which will include A, names of customers on the MUCC list, B, the duration of time each customer has been on the list, C, the reason for the customer being on the MUCC list, including the number of inquiries or requests made by the customer, and I just need to add on there, over that year. So it's just over that year, that last year. You want to put the last year? Yes, thank you. 3, the report will be reviewed by Council at a confidential meeting to be held the month after the report is prepared. And 4, at the confidential meeting, Council may resolve to remove customers from the MUCC. And the reason for that is because, it's to ensure that Council retains oversight because the MUCC...
Can you just read the reason, please?
Oh, well, I don't have them on my... Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. To ensure that the MUCC remains a rare and exceptional practice for dealing with customer complaints, Council must retain oversight at the decision to retain a customer on the MUCC. As a decision to place a customer on the MUCC has severe consequences for customers by limiting their communications with the city, the final decision to retain a customer on the list should be made by Council. Greater oversight ensuring the MUCC is restricted in application will contribute to maintaining customer focus, accountability and transparency, which will enhance the reputation of the city.
Seconder. Councillor Scanlon. Is anyone against? Councillor Lucas. Yes, I'll hear your amendment.
Can I ask why?
Policy.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Councillor Scanlon. Okay, so now comes the motion, reads as it is on the board without item 4. Okay, we'll go back to it again. Anyone against the motion? No one against? Okay, carried. Takes us to item 3.2, which is childcare premises and associated works for the building, car park areas, landscaping of lot 252, number 233, Bennett Springs Drive, Bennett Springs, and Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. It's...
Yeah, carry on, Councillor.
Thank you. That Council resolves to adopt option 2 to refuse the proposed childcare premises, including associated works for the building, car parking areas and landscaping at lot 252, number 233, Bennett Springs Drive, Bennett Springs, on the grounds that the proposed development, if approved, will have an adverse impact on the neighbouring properties.
Seconder in Councillor Kiley. Is anyone against? There is. Councillor Lucas. You wish to debate it?
No.
No? Okay. The motion, those in favour? I have Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon, Councillor Richardson and Councillor Podovnik. Vote is lost 9-6.
We'll move the staff recommendation.
Move the staff recommendation. Councillor Henderson over seconder. Sorry, you are correct. Sorry, Councillor Kiley, you do. You have an alternative, which is on page 20. So, Councillor Kiley, my apologies.
No problem. We've got a lot to get through. Councillors, my motion is to, for the same item, approve, or actually, we've got staff updated my motion, so I'll just quickly bring that up. They sent me an email through late today. No,
it's on the board.
On the board. Okay, that Council resolve to delegate to the Chief Executive Officer authority to approve the proposed childcare premises at number 233 Bennett Springs Drive, subject to the site layout being modified to achieve a minimum 1.2 metre wide landscape strip along the entire length of the eastern side boundary of the lot, with this being depicted on a revised site plan, and 2, conditions to the satisfaction of the Chief Executive Officer.
Have a seconder?
Well,
Councillor Lucas. Is there anyone against? Yes. Okay. Wish to debate it?
I would, yes, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Coley?
I'll be brief. This is a good outcome for the community who've put in a number of submissions, councillors, on this item. They don't want their amenity destroyed. They believe that the people in the area have put in objections to this, as we often find when you retrospectively fit a childcare premises into a community area. This is on a busy road. There's a number of objections on this. This seems like a better outcome, particularly for the 2 properties that align the eastern border of this site. This is a good outcome because they will end up with hopefully a treed buffer, an area which could be vegetated and provide some sort of screen and hopefully absorb some of the noise coming from the childcare centre and the car park. So this is just a better outcome. I appreciate that it does have an impact on the community, but Councillor Catalano's motions failed in respect of knocking it back completely. This is just a better outcome for the whole plan. Now, this would work in respect of moving the whole, or providing for probably another 900 millimetres of vegetative space against the eastern boundary. It's not a lot of extra space. That could be accommodated. I believe if somebody wanted to ask staff about whether that could be accommodated. But we're literally looking at about another 900 millimetres, about this much, councillors. Not much at all. The building could possibly be moved to 250, 300 millimetres. The car park width could be reduced slightly. You could accommodate this vegetative space within this development quite easily, I believe. And that's the proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Lucas is the seconder.
There's nothing more to add, thank you.
Okay.
Question.
Question, Councillor Henderson.
Just to be clear about the statement about the car bays, they're normally built to a standard, I believe. Would reducing that space impinge on that standard?
Mr Russell?
Through Mr Mayor, no. As Councillor Coley's pointed out, you could shift the building laterally to accommodate that, or you could press somewhat the pavement. You don't need to change the car park at all.
Thank you.
Another question.
Further question?
So the landscaping gets put up against the wall that's there, I gather. Who maintains that longer term? Is that actually proposed that it remains on their land and they have to maintain it?
Yep. Yes. That correct, Mr Russell? Yes? Okay. Now.
I've just got a question. I know that we've moved the motion. However, staff have come in late in the day and changed my original motion. And the difference being with mine was subject to conditions that were already in the original approval. However, this alternate motion is to come up with conditions to the potentially different conditions to the satisfaction of the Chief Executive Officer. I'm just wondering whether staff still intended for the same conditions to be met, or potentially approve a whole new set of conditions.
Mr Russell?
Same conditions, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. So, now, Speaker against the motion. Councillor Catalano, you wish to debate it?
Yes, thank you. I'm just... I want to make Council aware of the fact that there was quite a lot of people that did communicate to me that there would be quite severe traffic impacts on Eltone Road with people coming in and out of this daycare centre, and that, it's already, we've already lost the exit onto Reid Highway down near the shopping centre, Beachborough Road. So a lot of people are using this to access Reid Highway. The other thing is, it is a residential area and narrow streets, and there are new childcare centres going up, such as Brockman House, a little bit in the next, just a bit further down. I understand that there is a real need for childcare centres, but unfortunately locating these childcare centres in residential areas is really not the way to go, and I think it's fraught with problems for council. I understand Councillor Kiley putting in this amendment because trying to make the best of a bad deal, but I did want to let council know that people are very concerned that the traffic will just be unbearable in Altone Road, along Altone Road, especially at peak hour, and it's not just necessarily the noise coming from the facility, including the children playing there and what have you. This is a discretionary use, and that's what we're here on council to come to a decision about. So I did want to actually put those things to council. Thank you.
Speaker for the motion. Any speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Kiley, close the debate, please.
Can I just speak against briefly?
My apologies for not seeing you. Got a big head in front of you and short arms. So, Councillor Henderson.
I'll grow a longer arm, shall I? Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of issues that have been raised in debate that concern me. It's been said that the kids will be coming in and out during peak traffic time. Well, I don't believe that's the case because the road traffic study resolved that. And what does concern me is that by effectively impinging on the site depth, you're going to make less room inside for the kids. So it's actually going to be less physical space for them. So in that respect, I have a problem. And the question about delegate to the Chief Executive Officer to approve the proposed childcare premises. This is going to JDAP, I believe, is it not? So is that their decision?
No, I don't think this one's...
It's not? I'm not
Mr.
sure,
Russell?
that's why I asked.
Mr. Russell? I don't think it is.
No, this is not RAR.
No,
it's our
I
decision.
just wanted to be sure whether it was going to go there or not. Thank you.
Okay. Any other speakers? Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Henderson, for raising some of the issues which are important considerations in childcare centres. I believe there's a few. We're dealing with a number of childcare centres, and you might have the next item coming up. Might be your comments might relate more to that one, I believe. This building here, it's very, I believe, from staff's comments that it would be easy to move this slightly and make adjustments to the layout of the whole site so that we could accommodate that vegetative buffer. So I ask you to vote for this motion. Thank you.
Councillors, those in favour? Everyone's in favour with the exception of Councillor Scanlon and Councillor Catalano. So the motion's carried. Okay, councillors, now we go to item 3.6. I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor as Councillor McCulloch and myself have declared financial interest.
And it's on page 175 of the agenda, and I'll find my page. So item 3.6 is the Responsible Authority Report, Proposed Service Station, Lot 12, Great Northern Highway, Bullsbrook.
Got a motion, I believe.
Looking for a motion, councillors?
Got a motion from Councillor Henderson behind you.
Oh, it's not on my running sheet, but Councillor Henderson.
Page 21, Deputy Mayor.
Now I've got one, but it's not here. Go ahead, Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, I move that Council resolve to recommend that the Metro Outer Joint Development Assessment Panel refuse the application for the proposed service station at Lot 12, number 2533 Great Northern Highway, Bullsbrook, for the following reason. The proposed development will have an adverse effect on the surrounding area's amenity due to the excessive levels of traffic, building bulk, noise and odour emissions. And the reason for the change is the outlined in Part 1, which I just read, and in addition the matters outlined by the petitioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jones. Is there anyone against?
Just a question, Mr.
Question,
Deputy
Councillor
Mayor.
Kiley.
Just in respect of odour emissions, is that something that would stand up if this went to SAT? Maybe staff could answer that. If that's...
Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. In truth, if we're talking about odour coming from the fuel bowsers, as most of your councillors would understand, using fuel stations, that they have the ventilation systems and odour control systems, that the sorts of distances we're talking about in terms of the closest residences, it would be hard to sustain a claim that they're going to be smelling odour from fuel bowsers, in honesty.
I'll just move an amendment, Deputy Mayor, to remove odour emissions out of that motion.
Is that acceptable to the mover and seconder?
Look, we could argue it, but I'm happy for that if you wish, Councillor.
And the seconder? Okay, so we can remove odour emissions from the substantive motion. I ask again, is there anyone against? Thank you, Councillor McNamara. Would you like to debate it? Okay, you may start your debate, Councillor Henderson. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, this proposal is it's a very interesting one in that we're seeing a very significant development on this land around areas where there's current shops. There's already a petrol station there servicing the area, which isn't a significant reason in my mind to refuse because of competition factor. But the council should understand the very clear reference from the community, starting on page 201. There's page 1, page 203, 4, 5, 6, 7. It goes on and on and on. I think there's 14 pages of signatures with nearly 40 signatures per page. The community have really come out against this very significantly. And why? Because they're a small country town, if you like. They feel as though something like this is way and above their needs. And frankly, we should be listening to their concerns. They're saying that you're going to have more safety concerns due to larger traffic flow in and out of the two stations there, which is a reasonable argument. They're saying it doesn't fit in a small country town. The proposed site's too small. Again, it is tight. And as you know, that there are other shops there as well. And they're saying that the financial impact on operators would be significant. However, as I said, that's a commercial factor. But they're basically saying we've got one, we don't need another one. And my view is that generally competition should thrive. However, in this case, when you get such a significant view from the community about this proposal, and it is very significant, we should be listening to the community. We're here to represent the community, to put their views and to make sure that they have a voice and they're heard. So, councillors, I would urge that you vote for this motion to recommend against. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's not much more to add, just that there's 372 objections, and I think we should listen to the people who live there. Thank you.
Speaker against the motion, Councillor McNamara.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, the first question I need to ask the staff is, how long has this particular proponent lived in Bullsbrook? And did he have a business there prior to this?
Mr. Russell, if you can answer that. If you can't, you can take it on notice.
I'll have to take it on notice, Mr Deputy Mayor. I couldn't say whether the proponent, in fact, is a resident of or operates as a resident of
It is a new
Bullsbrook.
building. It is a new building, a new proposal.
I understand that, Mr. CEO. Thank you for that. With regard to the service station, the recommendation is to endorse the staff recommendation, and that's the recommendation of the staff, and send it to JEDA for their to let them assess the situation. That's what I'm led to believe. Am I correct in that, Mr. CEO?
It is a report to the JDAP,
Yeah,
and
right.
therefore it'll be taken to JDAP.
Okay. So we're not making a decision. We're making a decision on whether to send it out to others or not. If we had 200 and odd signatures, how many of them would actually want and complain about having? It was mentioned that it was a small country town. Small country town, one petrol station, and this person wants to build another one. I'm led to believe that they've been there donkey's years. That family have been there forever in Bullsbrook area. I'm led to believe there's a road named after them in the Bullsbrook area, Smith Road, and it is, and they are part of the community. They have recognised that there's a business and there's a dollar to be made with regard to running a business. So it comes down to the mighty dollar, but it's up to us to make a decision whether or not we'll allow that to happen. In my view, it's not a cent to make a dollar if they do it properly. Send it off to the relevant body, which is JEDAP. Let them make a decision. Thank you.
Speaker for the motion, Councillor Congdon.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. If I can alert you to page 193 on your broad books, and I think it's 189 in your fixed copies, there is a State Planning Policy 4.1 that deals with industrial buffer policies, SBP 4.1. And in the second paragraph, it talks about the proposed development will not satisfy the generic buffer distance of 200 metres when measured from the boundary. This buffer, missing the T, distance will encompass 5 existing residential properties and land zone for residential development, which is yet to be developed. So there will be more homes in the close proximity. The closest residential zone lots, as you can read there, is approximately 110 metres from the development site. And where a development proposes a separation distance less than the generic buffer distance, the guidance notes not to recommend. So I'm going to be in a position of not recommending approval to JDAP based on those policies. And councillors, the Smith family has been in Bullsbrook for a long, long time. A previous councillor, Mr Smith, is a relation to, or was, and has since passed away, sadly, a relation to the applicant, and I'm hearing all the stories about all the numbers of people that are opposed to this, and a service station next to a service station, etc., 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 probably on good planning grounds. It might proceed, except for the fact that I've stated that 4.1 SPP 4.1 says it can't.
Yes, question, Councillor McNamara.
Service stations almost next door to each other, absolutely next door to each other. Is that correct?
Mr Russell, Mr Van Lind.
Yeah, that's about right, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Any other speakers for or against the motion, councillors? There's no other speakers. Councillor Henderson, you're right to reply. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and councillors. Look, I really don't have a lot more to add, other than to say thank Councillor McNamara for his input. I understand his thinking from a competitive sense very much. However, as Councillor Congdon has said, there is an option there to be able to say, well, hang on, these matters have got to be dealt with under policy 4.1. That's not just the only policy. There are, I believe, others. In particular, you get to a stage where shopping centres, for instance, you cut back the numbers because you have too many, and petrol stations, in many ways, fall into the same category, and that's what 4.1's about. It is perhaps to try and control some of that. I don't think I need to say a lot more, councillors, other than there are other stations in the area. There will be more proposed stations as the area develops more to the urban area, and I believe that this one does need to be refused in terms of a recommendation to the JDAP because of the significant outcry from the community. Thank you.
Thank you. I now put the motion. Those in favour of Councillor Henderson, Jones, Prodovnik, Harry, Congerton, Richardson, Scanlon, Johnson and Kiley. I declare the motion passed. The other 4, I believe, were against. If I've got the numbers right, but there's Councillor McNamara and myself, Councillor Catalano and Councillor Zanino. If we could recall the Mayor and Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, councillors. And Mr Deputy Mayor. Yep, well, we've got to get on to this merger stuff here now. Okay, councillors, with the time available to us, there are a number of items we really have to do tonight, so I'll ask when we do those if you could keep your debate brief and concise to the point. So we go straight to 3.10, which is the State Administrative Tribunal review, invitation to reconsider the proposed childcare at Lot 5, number 152 Cranley Street. Councillor Kiley.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, my motion is that Council resolve to uphold the refusal of the approval of the childcare premises at 152 Cranley Street in Dayton. The reasons for changing the officer's recommendations, and I believe I had 10 submitted, but I've only ended up with 9 here. The approval of a childcare centre on this site will affect the amenity of many neighbouring residences, particularly in respect of the noise of children playing and interacting that cannot effectively be controlled. 2, the application does not meet the objectives of the local planning scheme, specifically 4.2.8 C and D of the residential development zone. 3, the car parking as provided for in the submitted plans do not meet Australian standards for car parking, and it has not been demonstrated how this can be achieved given the limited lot size. 4, there is no provision in the plans for an impact barrier along the eastern edge of the car parking that would provide adequate protection for the neighbouring property's external walls, the implementation of which would further, if they did implement it, would further restrict the available space for parking. 5, the operation management plan places impractical and non-achievable conditions on the noise control of children within the care of the centre. 6, the allocation of outdoor play space provided for is not compliant with the national government guidelines of 7 square metres of outdoor space per child. 7, the traffic management plan is not current given the approval by JDAP of a shopping precinct nearby just Monday week ago that will have a considerable impact on traffic flow in the area. 8, the traffic modelling was done at a time when there was no flyover along Reed Highway along Arthur Street, and this will impact the results of the traffic modelling as well. 9, it is likely that there will be traffic congestion caused by the access and egress to from the site around the drop-off and pick-up times, particularly due to changed traffic conditions in the area.
Okay. Seconder? Mr. Catalano? Is there anyone against? There is. Councillor Lucas, Councillor McNamara. We wish to vote. Councillor McNamara? Okay, so put that to vote. Those in favour?
Oh, we're not debating? Okay.
No,
yep.
Those in favour? I have Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Congerton, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon and Councillor Richardson. That's 3, 6, 8. And yeah, I've got that. 3, 6, 2, it's 8. So the motion is carried 8 to 7. Councillors, that takes us now down to 3.11, which is the State Administrative Tribunal reconciliation refusal of 6 security poles and associated infrastructure at Lot 206, 136 Swan Street. And first up is Councillor Johnson.
I've got a financial interest,
And
Mr
the
Mayor, and I'll be
Deputy
leaving the
Mayor
chamber.
is leaving the chamber. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Okay, Mr Mayor, I'll just read out the parts
If
that
you
have
just
changed.
wait for the Deputy Mayor to leave the chamber.
Mr Mayor, I'll read out the parts in bold which have changed. So, my motion as per the officer's recommendation, but with Part D. The poles and security system be amended as follows. 1. All pole heights to be a maximum of 2.5 metres, inclusive of the attachments, cameras and lights. 2. That only infrared lighting be used on security poles 1, 2, 4, 5 and 6. 3. That no security loudspeakers be used on the poles or anywhere else external to the house. 4. That the PTZ security cameras have a surrounding cover that blocks the cameras from looking onto neighbouring properties, Stirling Square, and one small change, and the floodplain.
Seconder?
I haven't done the reasons yet, Mr Mayor.
Yep, good point.
And the reasons for changing the officer's recommendation are: A. Local Planning Scheme 17 at page 182 provides exempted development criteria of no more than 2.5 metres for outdoor lighting and supporting poles. While poles greater than 2.5 metres are capable of approval, 2.5 metres appears to be an indicative reasonable height for a light pole in a residential area. B. The lights at 6,600 lumens are too bright for use in a residential neighbourhood and will impact on the amenity of surrounding homes. Bracket, a traditional 100 watt light globe is equivalent to 1,450 lumens. Security illumination for cameras can be provided using infrared light which is not visible. Pole 3, which will remain, is a work light. C. Loudspeakers of over 100 decibel power used to warn intruders at night will also impact on the amenity of surrounding homes. 100 decibels is far louder than the aircraft flying over Guildford. D. The only way to ensure the PTZ cameras do not intrude on the privacy of residential properties is to block their view with a fixed cover.
Thank you. The seconder? Councillor Richardson. Is anyone against? There is, and you wish to debate it?
I've got an amendment, Mayor.
An amendment.
Yes.
All right, let's hear it.
That the poles, which they were the 2 poles at the rear of the property, be removed completely from the proposal.
No, I need to move in the seconder.
I'm opposed to the amendment, Mr Mayor.
Okay. And the seconder? Okay, right, okay, so you either want to debate it because
He's got an amendment, so...
Yeah. So you need a seconder to the amendment before we can debate it, otherwise it lapses. Okay.
Actually, Councillor Scanlon already seconded it.
Okay, so, right. Is there anyone against... So you've moved the amendment. Is there anyone against the amendment? There's no one against the amendment. The amendment carries. Okay, it's now part of the motion. Okay, so anyone against the motion with that amendment? You don't wish to debate it. The others don't wish to debate it. In that case, I'll put the vote. Those in favour? Councillors Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon, Councillor Richardson and Councillor Podovnik. That's lost 8-7. No, isn't there an opportunity for...
Mr Mayor, that's not right. It's not 8-7.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor's no, it's okay. It's a tied vote. Town vote, and I'll vote. Sorry.
Taking the vote?
Yeah, but they just pointed out that the Deputy Mayor's not here, so I counted those in favour. Okay, so in that case, it's a tied vote. Deciding vote, I'll vote the way I did, and I won't support the motion, so the motion is lost. Did we have one from Councillor Kiley?
Well, you do, over the page.
Okay, so Councillor Kiley, you've got another motion as well. On page 26.
Refusing.
No, we've still got an alternate motion from Councillor Kiley.
Kiley
Yep.
first, unfortunately, without a reason.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, my motion is that Council resolve to refuse the application for security poles. I don't think I need to go into the detail. The reasons for changing the officer's recommendation is that nothing has changed from our previous decision, and this is still a, what should I say? What did we have previously at the last council meeting? That they're inappropriate and intrusive inclusion into the landscape for Guildford.
Okay, and that's your reason?
That'll do for the moment. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Scanlon. Is there anyone against? There is. Wish to debate it? No. Okay, so put the vote. Those in favour? Those in favour of the motion? Okay, I have Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon, Councillor Richardson and Councillor Bovovnik. The vote is lost 8-6. Thank you.
So now we need the officer's recommendation.
So move of the officer's recommendation. Move Councillor McCulloch. Second Councillor McNamara. Is there anyone against? We're going to debate it, councillors? No.
Yes.
We should debate it. Okay. Councillor McCulloch. Councillor McNamara is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is practical. The planning is completely approvable. And at our agenda forum last Wednesday, many questions, many answers were provided, and many confirmations of how and why this can be approved under planning laws was confirmed. What ensued last week, unfortunately, I do believe was an embarrassment and a great stress to some of our residents, and a pattern again where we have a City of Swan resident...
Point of order, Mr Mayor. We've got a detriment here.
Yes,
Sorry.
can I make a point of order?
Well, I've got one. What's your point of order, Councillor?
Point of order that Councillor McCulloch is implying that something done or said by councillors was inappropriate, and that is a detriment. That's a breach of our code of conduct. So I think an apology is needed.
I don't want to go far, but Councillor, if you just talk to the motion. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to be concise, councillors, so it is approvable, and I
Point,
think...
point of order, Mr Mayor, another one here. Given the fact that, the well-known fact that you are married to Councillor McCulloch, is it appropriate for you to be ruling on a point of order when Councillor McCulloch is speaking?
Yes, it is, because I am the presiding member, so you don't have a point of order. So carry on, Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, councillors, I think with all the information that was put before us and the authenticity and the experience of our city officers to confirm certain aspects of the development and the security patrol polls, and the answers that were clarified by the applicant, I believe that to be able to approve these is reasonable, and it allows a City of Swan resident to come into an area and to apply for aspects of what they need in regards to a build, to be treated, fairly across the board, and to have these things considered. So, councillors, I would encourage you to support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor McNamara is the seconder.
Delay, Mr Mayor. Look, we had a deputation from a gentleman who had a property and still has a property in Bayswater. He's had lots of trouble. He's trying to have a comfortable life. He is not interfering, and it has been proven over and over again by his so-called experts, and I call them so-called experts because everyone has a different opinion from the point of view of various stuff. Anyway, I honestly believe that the gentleman is genuine in his wish to have a peaceful and the rest of his life to be comfortable. So That's the reason I'm supporting this. That's the reason I'm not supporting this. My
Thank you.
apologies.
Thank you, Councillor. Speaker against the motion? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to speak against this motion to approve this development because the very reason it is at council is because it does not fit with our local planning scheme. If it did fit, it would have just been approved. There are many objections from the neighbours, and I've visited the property. I've spoken to them many, many times, and they are very valid concerns. Pole number 6, the one Councillor Kiley moved to have removed completely, it stands very, very high, overlooking the neighbour's swimming pool. She's too frightened to go out in her garden because there's cameras out there. She's been out there and security have come to see what she's doing. There have been people filming her. This is an invasion on their privacy. The poles are not necessary. They can have security. I have no objection to them having security. What I do have an objection to is them intimidating neighbours. These poles, the rear one, pole number 6, I think is it 6 metres high? Anyway, that's just adjacent to their swimming pool wall. So the applicant has built a wall 5 metres high around their swimming pool. They could put the camera on that. The pole is not necessary. I'm really concerned about the well-being and the privacy of the neighbours I've mentioned, and of the streetscape that it affects, and of the floodplain. The riverine landscape is affected by these poles. I'm also concerned about the wildlife. I'm concerned about all the wildlife that inhabits the floodplain. Dr. Bruce Lindsay, the lawyer for environmental justice, states that it's about development with compromise. There must be further compromise because the lights, the sound affect nature. The breeding patterns of animals, the auditory insult of the loudspeakers affects an animal's ability to perceive it's where it is. It affects its ability to hunt prey. It affects its ability to stop becoming prey. There's a huge amount of wildlife that is becoming extinct in Australia. We've lost hundreds of species, is it thousands of species in Australia, I'm not sure, since colonisation, and development must be with compromise, and any form of artificial lighting or noise can affect the wildlife. The streetscape on Swan Street is of heritage value to Guildford, and the security poles abutting the property do affect the visual impact for tourists. This is the department, DBCA, said they're unable to support the location or height of the security poles 4 to 6, says they do not meet their general objectives of policy number 42 and 48. I urge you all to reconsider approving this development because it not only affects the lives of the neighbours, it affects wildlife and it affects the future of Guildford as a historic town that it's been labelled. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion. Councillor Colley. Sorry, Speaker for the motion. Okay, no speakers for the motion. Speaker against. Councillor Colley.
Councillors, this is a terrible decision going forward. This is a shocking decision, and it's very similar to the one that was the awning that was approved by this council to place an awning over a Vietnamese restaurant, where it got considerable kickback from the community in terms of this is such an inappropriate approval.
You're bringing something that's irrelevant to debate, so can you speak to the item, please?
I'm talking about the inappropriate approval of these posts, Mr Mayor.
Inappropriate decisions, we're debating this one. Which we haven't made yet, by the way.
These poles, the ones at the rear at least, are the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, are situated in areas subject to flooding. proposed. DBCA. These poles are in land that abuts land within the Swan Canning Development Control Area. The height of the poles, we referred previously at the agenda forum about you cannot get a pole, a flagpole above 8 metres. So why are we looking at 6 poles throughout this property? You can't get a sign under the... you can't just put signs up. You can't put lamps up this high. This is a blight on the community. These signs, for all the money that this gentleman has spent on his property, he is ruining the overall impression, because when people get in Stirling Square and look across at this property, they won't be noticing his beautiful design or the architectural input into the whole thing. They'll be looking at what on earth are these ridiculous poles and lights and speakers and cameras moving around. They will be going, what on earth is in there, which is so valuable that, look, I cannot see how these things would prevent crime, but only attract it going forward. And this is the irony of the whole thing, that they will be a blight on the community, on the view to that, from Stirling Square to that property, from the neighbours, to think that their neighbours have bought into a beautiful heritage building, and you're allowing, this council is prepared to allow the neighbours who bought in well before this person came along to go ahead and build something, to just put it up regardless of what the neighbours think, and then retrospectively come in and say, no, I'm just going to push it through this council because effectively this council's going to fold. I've got a lot of money. We heard him last week. I've got a lot of money and my house is worth a lot more than any other house in Guildford. So, look, let's just give him what he wants. But I guarantee you, if someone came in another side street without much money and wanted to put up 6 poles in their front yard, there's no way this council would approve it. But here we are, you lot,
Councillor
as
Tyler,
councillors...
No, that's enough. Your comments are highly inappropriate.
Why is that? Well, you lot... I refer to the group of councillors who are constantly voting against issues...
Councillor Kiley.
Constantly voting against things in Guildford for the mere sake of voting against things in Guildford. This is an inappropriate development, and you know it, Mayor.
Councillor Kiley, you are now sanctioned for the remainder of the meeting for breaching our code of conduct, speaking over the presiding member when I called you to order on a number of occasions. Turn your microphone off. You are now sanctioned, other than for voting. Do I have any other speakers?
Mr Mayor, dissent from that ruling.
Well, you can't, Councillor. That's my ruling. There's no dissension. Councillor Petrovic, you wish to speak?
For a heritage-listed area, Mayor...
Councillor Kiley, if you keep it up,
for a heritage-listed area, you're going to allow this sort of development to go on in Guildford. Appalling.
Enough. Councillors, the meeting is adjourned.
Mr Mayor, I'm going to dissent from that one. I'm dissenting from that adjournment motion, Mr Mayor, because you do not have any ability to do that. So, Mr Mayor, please, will you... I was speaking, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, you're interrupting me.
And you are getting there.
10 minutes.
It is now adjourned, Councillor, until next Wednesday.
Mr Mayor, go if you want.